The elephant graveyard used to belong to myth and legend, but now in Zimbabwe, it's a reality. In the parched landscape, their carcasses, many of them babies, lie close to the near-empty watering holes. This youngster collapsed and died trapped in thick mud. More than 200 have perished so far in this unprecedented drought.
This is a natural disaster, and we have no control of it.
And the late rains, how is that impacting on the animals?
A lot of them will die because of starvation, because there's less food. Eventually, a lot of species will be affected.
Zimbabwe's national parks are home to thousands of wild animals, many now starving. And with the country's economy close to collapse, there's no government money to help, so it's up to individuals to do what they can.
The Murray-Darling Basin system is about 3,200 kilometres long and stretches from Queensland down through New South Wales, Victoria, ACT and then down into South Australia. It's absolutely the lifeblood of all those farming areas.
Controversially, rangers have for the first time intervened in some places to feed the animals. The hay helped this nursing elephant produce enough milk to feed her baby.
In a normal year, I would be standing at least knee deep, maybe thigh deep in water. But as you can see, it's dried up. There's absolutely no doubt that we're seeing a major shift in the climate on the planet. Here in southern Africa, we're seeing decade after decade increased temperatures and generally drier conditions.
Hippos are also struggling to survive on limited food and water. Even the fish here are gasping in the mud, and every drop is life-saving.
It's nothing short of an environmental catastrophe.
Now believed to have killed up to 1 million fish in the Murray-Darling Basin.
Locals taking to social media to express their frustration at alleged mismanagement.
Look at this!
It's believed to be one of the biggest fish kills in history.
It's a tragedy for the Murray-Darling Basin, really. It highlights the failings of the basin plan.
I'm AWGs and this is Cape Town. It is South Africa's second largest city, home to almost 4 million people, and it's facing an enormous crisis as it contends with the worst drought in recorded history.
Over the last 50 or 60 years, there's been a huge expansion of irrigated cropping. It includes cotton, citrus, wheat, rice, all sorts of amazing things that are growing in what was pretty arid country.
Now, water restrictions have put a lot of pressure on key sectors of the economy, but business is finding ways to keep the taps on.
If it's for consumption and for soups and for teas and for coffees and for keeping people alive and for your basic expenses like miniature washers or this is the ideal, because you're making water where it's needed, not taking water to where it's needed.
For under $2,000, this machine produces water from air. It harvests humidity and produces around 30 litres a day. It's not much, but can be done at a larger scale.
This machine makes water from the air. In the air all around us is humidity, a little bit less somewhere else to where we are today. But it extracts that water, and it's pure, no chlorine, no chemicals, and this is how it works.
Okay.
So it looks like, yeah, whoa! These are the various filters here. That's pretty wild.
Here's a fan, here's a coolant, and here's an air filter.
Right.
Okay. It sucks the air through the air filter, it cools it down, and then it drops into an ultraviolet tank at the back, which is over here. And that goes through charcoal filter as well. There's an ultraviolet light in there, so we don't use any chlorine. There's no chemicals, as I say.
These guys don't only just make at-home units like this, but also industrial units that are much bigger than this. Look, it's got an air filter on it. This looks like the UV filter.
And what happens is that after it's gone through the ultraviolet, it goes to pre-carbon, a post-carbon filter, a reverse osmosis, and then we add good minerals.
Okay.
It gets pumped up into a holding tank over here, and press the button, and you've got water.
So this system down here is responsible for giving you that clean solution. Sediment, pre-carbon, membrane, mineral filter, post-carbon. By the time your water is through here, there's nothing left in it that could be a contaminant.
The machine makes 32 litres of water per 24 hours.
Okay, now it's running off electricity, so how much energy is it actually drawing out?
It's a 450 watt, so it's about half a steam mine.
Okay, and does it matter where you are, outside or inside, or where the machine is placed, to how much water that you actually get?
The yield is different, yes. So if you're in a high humidity area, or you've got a lot of greenery around you, the humidity is higher. It'll make more water. So it needs 35% humidity plus to make water.
Okay.
And who knows? This might be the future of water right here.
Is this the future?
Absolutely. This is most definitely, this was around 300 years before Christ. They used to, in the deserts, they used to actually put a whole lot of leaves together, and then the humidity would slide down. They would have drinking water in the morning.
This indicator will let you know when the system is actually generating water. These raindrops will be falling down. It'll tell you when you need to replace filters. It'll also tell you how much water you have in both the bottom tank and the top tank.
There's 9 times more water in the air than in all the oceans of the world. So it's here. Why don't we use it?
Absolutely. I have to taste it.
So, what do you say, Jack? Should we give it a taste? Hold this button on the cold. Your nice clear glass of water. Also cold. And I gotta say, it's pretty amazing. I'm drinking something that was trapped in the air, which is now in my glass. I know to some scientists in the crowd, you're like, what's the big deal? Yeah, of course there's moisture in the air. But the idea of a machine like this that can sit in your office and you're not lugging any water in here is pretty amazing to actually experiment with.
Okay, so when we press that,
yes,
it takes a little time because an ultraviolet light switches on in the nozzle as well.
So this is happening immediately. This is coming out of the air immediately.
Yes.
Okay, so it's fresh.
That was in the air 6 hours ago.
I love my water, so.
And it can be cooled as well.
I can taste a difference in this.
But if you can find a way to get power to these, there it is. You have clean water now to enjoy. I thought it was cool. I think you might think the same. Water from nothing, water from the air, ECOLOBLUE. Check them out. This is not the only machine they make.
Imagine an Earth without water. Life without water. We find it everywhere. In the atmosphere and below our feet. 3/4 of the Earth's surface is covered by this essential liquid. It's a difficult thing to imagine life without water, because our own survival depends on it. In fact, water is vital to the existence of all forms of life on Earth. Water, or H2O, is an unusual compound with amazing properties. These unique properties are what make it so important to life.
We're sustainable harvesters. What you're standing in is about 12,000 square feet of controlled environment greenhouse space. In this space, we can grow up to 7,000 heads of lettuce in every week, utilizing growing techniques called aquaponics. We grow a bunch of different varieties of leafy green lettuces, and we distribute that to restaurants all throughout Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, and even in Louisiana, including New Orleans and Baton Rouge. Sustainable Harvesters was really formed out of the necessity and the need for fresh and local produce in the Houston market specifically. We noticed that there was new restaurants popping up left and right, and all of them always had a gear towards local, fresh, and sustainable produce that they were sourcing from.
First of all, water happens to be the only substance on Earth that can be found naturally in all 3 states, as a solid, a liquid, and a gas. It is rare in that it actually expands as a solid, which is why ice can float. Pure water is essentially colorless, odorless, and tasteless. Water has a neutral pH, which means it is neither acidic nor basic. Water has been called a universal solvent because it can dissolve many substances. Wherever water goes, either through the atmosphere, the earth, or through our bodies, it takes along valuable chemicals, minerals, and nutrients. This is one reason why water accounts for about 70% of the weight of a cell, which is the building block of life.
Today we are visiting True Garden. It's a vertical aeroponic food farm. I was really excited to go here because I originally stumbled across True Garden and their farm on Instagram, and it's so cool looking. It's just a series of columns that are covered in different vegetables and fruits that are completely fresh, and I was mostly interested to see what the biology of growing food was like, because vertical farms grow food in a very different and sustainable way.
My name's Troy Albright. I'm actually a licensed pharmacist. As I've done consult on my patients, I realize it starts with the food they're putting in their body.
Troy is a licensed pharmacist by trade. He went through school in the very modern medical way of doing things, and through the process of having children of his own with their own illnesses and conditions, and also being overweight himself, he changed how he approached food and what he put in his body, and it changed everything for him and his family.
My parents and grandparents were farmers in Minnesota, and we had black soil there. Here in Arizona, the soil is like this red clay stuff.
Sure.
So if you don't amend it and really work that soil, you don't get a lot of good quality produce out of it. So when I saw the tower garden, I can control the environment, I control the water, I control the nutrients. I love this. I can control every aspect of growing my own food.
So what is the hollow earth? This is a story that's been around for a long time. It's not new by any means. What was often believed was that we had a center sun, the inside of the crust was hollow, and on the inside there were just people, sailing around and living just mirror to us on the other side. Well, it turns out that there are large enough areas to where I could see where people could get that idea, that they think it's just one giant empty area, but it's a honeycomb. It's the honeycomb earth. From centrifugal forces, heating and cooling, the convection of the earth, over time, it's created this entire zone that are porous, like a honeycomb. And a lot of them connect with each other through rift systems, which I mentioned earlier. And ancient aliens have carved out those areas and made them to where you can transnavigate the planet.
Yeah, water is created by the sun. The sun is a water factory, weirdly, because we think of it as this big ball of fire. But it's basically a giant replicator. All of this energy that's coming in through the cosmic web, coming out through the sun, creates a lot of the matter, or all of the matter that our solar system is made of.
In some ways, Australia reminds me of this glass bowl, which contains stones and a layer of plasticine or modelling clay on top. Why? I'm glad you asked. Because water is not only in the rivers and streams and lakes that you see around you, but water can also be under the ground, in layers of rock that have spaces between the solid bits. And this layer of stones represents a layer of such rock. It's called permeable rock. It allows water to flow through it, and you can see there's some water in there already. However, not all rock allows water to pass through. Some is quite solid, and the glass bowl itself represents a layer of such rock, impermeable rock, and the layer of modelling clay represents another layer of impermeable rock. Now let's imagine that it rains thousands of kilometres away in the mountains. Now the rain seeps into the permeable rock and it flows. It may take years to flow all the way, but it's filling up that space. Now nothing is happening in the centre of this dry continent. However, there's water under the ground, and if we sink a well by drilling through the impermeable rock, let's see what happens. Down we go, and look at that. We have a well and we have water coming out of it. It's called an Artesian well. Now the water doesn't always spring up out of the well like that. Sometimes you have to pump it to the surface.
So So there are underground lakes, oceans, rivers, and a vast amount of water that is locked up in in rocks that is crystallized. And recently, it's been scientifically announced that locked up in the rocks below ground is way more water than we have in our oceans. There's plenty of water down there, and a lot of it is very mineral rich, as you would imagine.
But in any event, you can get water in dry places, even in the very centre of the dry continent of Australia, in places such as Alice Springs, sitting directly over the Amadeus Basin. But to get to that water-bearing rock, the aquifer, we need to drill through the top layer of the sandwich, about 100 metres of solid rock. Now, in order to drill through the rocks, one of these steel pipes is placed vertically and a drill bit screwed onto the end of it. It may be a large drill bit like this with cone-shaped gadgets with teeth on them. That's called a tri-cone roller bit. Let me show you how it works. Here's a smaller one. As it rotates, those toothed wheels also rotate, cutting through the rock. They're constantly monitoring the sort of rock they're going through. They blow air down the centre of the pipe, that pushes the rock samples up. They collect them in a little bag, test them out, and work out what sort of drill bit they need. For certain kinds of rock, they may need to actually hammer their way through. So they use a tungsten button hammer bit, and that pounds its way through as well as turning. For other kinds of rock, they may need a diamond drill bit. This drill bit actually has thousands of little industrial diamonds embedded in the cutting face, and that's very efficient for cutting its way through hard rock.
Something I do know about this machine right here, and that is the fact that it can make pure, filtered drinking water from the air. Let that sink in for a minute. I'm sure some of you kids don't know out there is there's moisture in the air. If you could only capture that, you'd have all the water you ever needed. 8 gallons of water or 30 liters of water in one single day. That's what it will pull out of the air. It's not plugged into plumbing. You're not putting a water tank on top of it. You could use this thing in the desert. You could use this thing off the grid. ECOLOBLUE. Water from air.
Drilled 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on farm agricultural wells.
Without drillers like BJ Drilling, no one can access water at all, neither residents, nor municipalities, nor farmers. But as the water table drops, prices rise.
Watch the trend of what it cost to drill a well 10 years ago versus what it cost to drill a well today. It's increased probably twofold as what it used to cost to drill a hole. We're having to drill deeper. It doesn't show any signs of letting up.
And the cost to get to guaranteed water?
It all depends the size of the hole. A domestic well is about like purchasing a car, probably anywhere into the $30,000 range. Some of your bigger 16-inch cased wells are touching easy $500,000.
And that's just to drill the hole. That doesn't include the pump to pull the water, or the electricity, natural gas, or diesel to run the pump.
This water station can generate water from the humidity in the air with as little as 25% of relative humidity, and at a temperature as low as 5 Celsius. The total energy available is 6 megawatts, stored in appropriate solar and wind batteries underground, and converted to electricity to run the operation of the entire water station. The main source of energy is generated from 5 wind turbines of 1 megawatt each, and 4,300 watts solar panels. Diesel generators can also be used.
You can do it! The worst case scenario, some drought-ravaged towns in New South Wales could lose their supply of drinking water within weeks.
As New South Wales grapples with the worst drought on record, the state's water minister warns the crisis could come to a head unless there is significant rain.
We are doing everything humanly possible.
State river operator and bulk water supplier Water New South Wales warns rivers supplying water to regional and rural towns in the state could run dry in a matter of months.
Welcome back. Well, today is World Water Day, and joining us is Moses West. You may remember him. He's running a water rescue foundation to bring fresh drinking water to anywhere in the world. Now he's giving us an update on his mission. Moses, first, of course, thank you for being here. I first want to just start with the foundation. Talk about, again, What was the motivation for creating this foundation?
Oh, the motivation for the foundation was simple for me. I've been working with this technology and making improvements to it for years. And I needed to get it away from just the federal government aspect of what they want to do with it in the way of groundwater recharge, supplying soldiers with water in the field, when there's so many civilians around the world that absolutely need fresh, clean water. So the foundation, I set that up so that I could take machines, build machines, and donate them to people around the world that needed them. The greatest example, the best example, is what we did right here. Thank you for y'all at KVUE for helping us get that done. But that machine going to Puerto Rico and what we did there actually saved people's lives. We supplied 3,500 people with drinking water for an entire island after the hurricane.
The drought crisis is desperate in our southeast Queensland food bowl, so dire that people are stealing water from their friends and neighbours. Critical new water restrictions are driving up crime and our fruit and veggie prices. Tonight, police tell Sophie Upcroft they're showing no mercy.
Water, it's the most valuable commodity in town, but it's drying up fast.
This is the worst I've ever seen it.
The crisis is so real, it's the first thing that hits you driving into town. It's so dire that water restrictions are tightening to critical next week. Locals are only being allowed 100 litres of water per day per home. That's almost half of what we use in the city. Water is so scarce that people are now stealing it.
In the past few weeks, we've had 4 instances of water theft reported within the Stanthorpe and Warwick areas. All of which are currently under investigation.
Nobody is safe. Council main supplies are being drained, backyard tanks bled dry, and even the holiest water in town is being stolen.
I think it's disgusting, but people are desperate. Yeah, people are desperate, especially ones that have got young kids.
The AWG 5000 is the world's most advanced atmospheric water generator manufactured in the world. The complete system for providing all of your drinking water needs comes in a 20-foot ISO container. The unit can be transported by a wide range of methods to include military airlift. When the unit is attached to its own chassis, it can be rapidly deployed and placed into operation to provide emergency drinking water needs. Eliminating long supply lines for basic pure drinking water. Just open the doors and everything is designed for the user to effectively place the system into operation. The innovative design of the sliding platform allows for ease of use and rapid deployment.
Thieves drove a water truck onto Paul Mangotti's property in the middle of the night, stealing thousands of litres from his tanks.
Popped the manhole covers and pumped out somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 litres.
Forcing him to truck in water, which isn't cheap.
And at the moment we're lucky to be able to get it because nobody really knows what's going to happen if the town starts to run out of water later on in the year.
The unit's support system is constructed of high-grade stainless steel for durability in a wide range of climates. The installation process is simple and user-friendly. Placing the unit into operation is designed with the user in mind for simplicity and ease of use.
Tonight, this is the grim reality facing the people of Stanthorpe. Tanks are almost empty, dams are turning to dust, and the town's water is completely drying up, and it's only going to get worse.
One button to start the system. You are now producing pure drinking water from the most abundant source of water on the earth, the atmosphere. The AWG 5000 can be powered by either the grid or its own internal diesel generator that can operate for 5 days without interruption. The unit is comprised of 3 modules: water production, water treatment, and power production.
Council is working with the state government, trucking in water at an eye-watering cost of $2 million per month. That's why police are showing no mercy to water thieves.
The offenders can expect to be prosecuted.
But if you are struggling,
if you are desperate and you can't afford to buy any water, please come and speak to council.
Water is present on the Earth in three forms: a liquid, a solid, and a gas. AWG technology has developed this revolutionary water generating system that allows us to remove industrial quantities of the purest drinking water from the air that we breathe. In optimal conditions, the AWG 5000 can produce over 1,000 gallons of pure water every day with a very low power consumption. AWG technology is focused on the future of providing pure drinking water wherever it is required with the most technologically advanced water generators produced in the world.
It predicts in the worst case scenario, Dubbo, a major regional centre northwest of Sydney, could run out of water in less than 2 months' time, potentially impacting about 35,000 residents. Further west, the town of Narromine could be next. That same month, water could dry up in the central west towns of Nyngan and Cobar.
Exists right here in the air.
He believed so strongly in that idea. In 2015, West invented an atmospheric water generator, or AWG, a machine that takes in air and turns it into drinking water.
We're at the place now, I think, making 50, 100, 200, 250,000, a million gallons of water at an incredibly low energy consumption. I think cheaper than groundwater by far. Cheaper than desalination.
So far, 12 of these AWGs exist. West planted them in 3 areas, including the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, and Flint, Michigan.
I need to engage with the people here, and I need to show them what this machine does, and they need to understand that it is their machine, and I am here for them.
We're aware of welfare. Welfare is very important.
Yeah.
And to make sure that you talk.
Well, I remember it gets so bad that you'd tell me to make sure the gun cabinet was locked.
Well, I know of farmers who've committed suicide. They owe so much money to the bank, and they get so heavily into debt, either with their farming or with their stock, that they see no other way out, and it becomes, depressed.